Monday was MLK Day, and it was lobby day for the Virginia State House. Let's just say the people of the state were none too happy with things going on around their Second Amendment rights, and they were going to show up on lobby day to do and say something about it. What that something was and who these people were? Well, if you believe the mainstream media going into this weekend,
right now, thousands of gun rights activists, white nationalists, militia groups, all swarming the Virginia state capitol.
There are a lot of people nervous about what's going to happen.
Authorities in Richmond are on high alert.
It could be a tense day.
Such polarization, what may happen in Virginia.
Several hate groups, supposedly some white nationalists.
White nationalists.
White nationalists.
White nationalists.
White nationalist groups.
White supremacists.
White supremacists.
White supremacists. White extremists.
This entire rally stands in opposition to the meaning of this day.
Virginia on the edge.
How concerned are you that there might be some people in this crowd that may want to get violent?
There's certainly a lot of concern here.
Raising fears of a dangerous confrontation.
There could be violence, and there is real concern there about what the intention is behind this.
There's a lot of concern about the potential for violence.
Could spark violence. Tensions high in Virginia may cause violence there.
Northam clearly trying to avoid another Charlottesville.
In Charlottesville. Could see a repeat of what we saw in 2017 in Charlottesville.
Similar to what we saw in Charlottesville.
Worrying about a repeat of Charlottesville.
Horrible 2017 Charlottesville disaster.
You look at what happened in Charlottesville.
The two sides clashed in Charlottesville.
Men walk through the Capitol in Virginia carrying weapons of war.
Many demonstrators are, in fact, heavily armed.
Heavily armed.
Heavily armed. Look at the gear.
What is this all about?
Militia groups, armed militia.
These militia groups.
Far-right militias.
Militia groups.
Far-right extremists.
Look, those threats which caused the governor to call for a state of emergency have simply not emerged. The police very clear in saying that they have not had a single arrest during this rally.
yeah, that's not what happened at all, as CNN even had to admit on their own airwaves. So I commend them for getting the reporting on the ground right, but the fear-mongering and speculation prior to the event were proven to be outright lies and disgustingly irresponsible reporting. Sadly, it's nothing new, and even the attempts of right-leaning media to combat this type of stuff hasn't changed these types of actions, which brings me to today's food for thought question. What do we do about the media's continued lying? I'm serious in asking this question. It's been at least a decade, if not two good, solid decades in the books for conservative media setting up an alternative to the mainstream media, and what has exactly changed? After all, setting up this alternative was supposed to be about holding the press's feet to the fire, exposing their lies, and then making them tell the truth. Yet in one of Virginia's most important moments of recent history, the mainstream media from the national to the local felt free enough to flat out lie and smear people with the notion of white nationalism and white supremacy if they dared to show their faces on the Capitol Square on Monday. Now I know the good news is that fewer and fewer people are tuning into CNN or MSNBC or the nightly news of those three-letter networks for their information. After all, if no one's watching, it doesn't really matter, or so goes the conventional wisdom. Well, it does matter. Because here's where people are still getting their news, the local TV broadcast and newspapers, and guess what? Even in small towns, they still are playing the political game and still willing to spread the lies of the bigger outlets for them, because they, for the vast majority of newsrooms, think the same way as the bigger outlets. I was reminded of that on Monday courtesy of my own hometown ABC affiliate, WBAY-TV in Green Bay, Wisconsin. According to them, at 10 a.m. Central on Monday, this was the news to know. Militia groups and white supremacists are among those expected to mix with gun right activists, raising fears that the state could again see the type of violence that exploded in Charlottesville in 2017. Notice how this was done at 10 a.m. Central Time as well, not an hour before the rally, but as the rally was well underway and supposed news gathering entities had plenty of time to actually gather the facts and report like they're supposed to. Yet WBAY chose to parrot a talking point-driven article from some other ABC affiliate in Richmond from the day before. Could this have been a case of lazy social media managers just grabbing something for shock value and putting it up? Maybe, but this wasn't a one-off situation. This is the prevailing narrative, and I'm guessing the person handling social media at WBAY is a paid professional. This wasn't a simple error. This was on purpose, and this was the intimidation tactic the left wanted to use. Go to this rally and you're a white supremacist. By now, you've likely seen all the pictures and the stories of Black, Hispanic, and Asian people that were side by side with those evil and scary white people. The narrative flies in the face of the facts, but this isn't the first or third or thousandth time the leftist propaganda arm has allowed narrative to be trumped by facts. It isn't the first, third, or thousandth time that a prophecy of the media was proven completely false by the facts on the ground, and yet you'll see your friends and your family parrot those talking points as if they were true forever. This wasn't just smears and lies either. This was about setting up a narrative that would hopefully chill the free speech of others for fear of what would happen to them if they showed up on Monday. That's the scary part here. Make no mistake about it, a week and weekend full of the kind of coverage that I played for you at the top was all done to silence your free speech rights first and foremost. Who wants to be labeled as a white supremacist just for showing up to a rally, right? I mean, what would happen at work or within your family? What kind of shame would that bring to normal everyday citizens worried about their rights being taken away? Would it be worth the scarlet letter of today just to show up and have the media smear you some more? That's why this question matters, and it matters about both sides of the political divide. We're called by God to love thy enemy, and in the political sense that means showing respect to the people that you disagree with. Is what happened this week and weekend leading up to Monday's rally respectable? Hell no, but the media thinks that they know best for this country, and therefore they must defeat the enemy at all cost. And make no mistake, anyone that isn't on their far left is the enemy. After all, smearing these people with the label of white supremacy, even if it was completely unfounded and untrue in the end, was the end goal. It served the purpose to not only chill speech, but to change the discussion from the facts to the labels of people. This is but a single example of what has only gotten worse over the course of at least the last 20 years from the mainstream media. When you begin to look at the ratings and website numbers for these people, you begin to realize a sad reality from our media. The only thing they have left to sell is derision and divisiveness. They're failing and failing bad when it comes to the ratings. Have we devolved that badly as a society? If so, is there really any fixing this? I say yes to the former and no to the latter. But I also say that's okay, and here's why. We are actually better off as a society knowing the truth of where our journalists, their newspapers, the websites, and the video channels are coming from. I think we're better off if they just completely take the mask off, and we the American people get to decide to take their information seriously or not. In CNN's case, the American people are speaking loudly and clearly, only they're speaking by not tuning in. According to Nielsen's ratings report for 2019, CNN dropped another 9%, with even more openly leftist MSNBC also seeing a drop in the ratings, but only at a third of the rate of CNN. CNN finished the year number 22 in all cable programming, averaging a total of 972,000 viewers every night, when every cable news station runs their opinion programming more so than the afternoon and mornings. Fox News tops in the game, 2.75 million viewers per night, topping even ESPN's ratings on a nightly basis. So I suggest to you that the light of day of their bias and untruthfulness is winning the day already, but it hasn't stopped them in their tracks. So I also suggest to you that more is needed. In fact, I suggest that we need to be more open to the kind of litigation that Nick Sandmann and his family put out there against the media after their blatant and irresponsible lies against him. Those in Virginia that attended that rally should go after every local and national media outlet that smeared them with the scarlet letter of today, white supremacist. No longer do you get to get away with blatant and calculated lies like this. It isn't so much the CNNs of the world that I'm talking about, because they've demonstrated their willingness to pay off Sandmann and then continue doing the very same thing they did to him to other people. But if you start going after the local news and the papers, suddenly behavior is going to change or they're going to be out of business. As it stands, a lot of these liars are on thin ice financially. So I suggest that we get small and ask for big money. Make these people pay literally and figuratively for their libel against well-meaning, non-violent, and peaceful protesters without a hint of white nationalism in them. What say you? Leave a comment below or hit me up on social media at The Coppin Show. And don't forget, you can tune into my weekly show, Critical Thinking, on Saturday, 5 p.m. Central Time on Mojo 50 Radio. Until then, Matthew 547.